Okay, we're live on YouTube now. My slide is the info session, right? Or the my screen share is the info session slides.
Because people are coming good.
Hmm. Okay, they're here.
When we do the slide that shows all the logos of the companies,
Hmm.
um, can you make sure that you say that this is like a sampling of the companies you worked with? I don't want it to sound like it's all of them.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Bill.
Hey y'all, thanks
Hi.
thanks for the patience. Zoom desynced me before I jumped in.
Lovely.
Uh, Evan, would you like me to admit the waiting room? I can take care of those
Um,
pop-ups for you.
yeah,
Are
that'd
we
be.
ready?
I think you both should be co-hosts now.
Okay, we're ready to do so.
Yes, I am ready. We're
Okay.
all set up on YouTube and everything too. Bill, are you getting that beeping?
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go
Okay, so
ahead.
I'm gonna click admit all.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. I am interested in LifeSci.
Awesome. That's great. We will be getting started in like the next 4 minutes, just so that we can get some people to join us. Um, yeah, we're going to go through our program overview. We're going to explain our application process, and then we'll be discussing a few details on how to make your application as successful as possible. So thank you again all for joining us. In the meantime, we have a number of links that y'all can follow along with as we go through our presentation. We have our application link, which is arguably the most important link. Otherwise, we have our program overview link, a list of the current academic opportunities that we have, our office hours, our meetup, and then the email where you can get into contact with all of us. I will post that. So in case you joined us, here are the links again. If you want to follow along with us, while we talk about each link, you're more than welcome to do so. While we wait, if you all could type into the chat either your major or your background, as well as your current academic year, or if you recently graduated or what kind of program you're in. For instance, if you're like a PhD student or a master student or a bachelor student. Um, so yeah, if you all could put that into the chat, we're going to get a sense of who is in this meeting with us, just so we can kind of tailor um, our presentation a little bit better. And I'll just read a few of these off so we can get an idea. Um, Hi, Alexa. We have a major in neuroscience and behavior. That's awesome. First year. Anthony, who is class of 2023 in computer science, computer engineering, Raymond, chemical engineering, let's see, biochemistry, quite a few undergrads, but also some master students. Another computer engineering, bio, let's see, accounting, that's great. Classical music, that's not one that we see very often, but that is amazing. We do love to have like a range of majors, and we have so many opportunities that might be relevant to all of you. So if you are not like a typical STEM major, I know our program is called LifeSci, but again, if you're not a typical STEM major, um, that doesn't mean that we do not have opportunities for you as well. So we'll go into like a little bit more about the types of opportunities you can expect to see through our program. But again, we really have opportunities for all majors. Let's see, undecided, that's totally okay. A master's in management sciences and engineering, um, bio, sociology, physiology, chemistry, bio. Awesome. So we have a huge range. Um, And there are definitely a lot of you in here. So if you all have questions at any point, feel free just to type those into the chat. We're going to be keeping track of those throughout our presentation. And there will be a Q&A section at the very end of our presentation. So if we happen to not answer your question throughout our presentation, which we likely will, again, get to that at the very end, and you're welcome to ask those again at the when that section is available. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to get started. Thank you guys all for joining us. This is the LifeSci NYC Internship Program, and this is just our general info session. So we will be going over giving a program overview, talking about the origins of our program and what we do, as well as our application process. So I'll just introduce our team really quick, at least the team that you might be interacting with as you go through the program. With us here today is Sharon Alpert Kaplan, our Senior Program Director, as well as Bill Hammersley, a Program Coordinator. My name is Evan. I am also a Program Coordinator with LifeSci. And then not here with us today is Sally Fang, our Associate Director of Career Development. If you communicate with any of us or if you have questions about our program, you will likely be talking to Bill, Sharon, or I, but you may talk to Sally as well. We can all be reached at that internships@upperweststrategies.com email address. We respond very quickly, so if you have any questions or need any help with our application, we are here for you. A little bit about our program. Our program is part of the New York City Economic Development Corporation's 10-year, $1 billion initiative to grow the life sciences industry in New York City. We are the workforce development aspect of that initiative and primarily an internship program. We offer paid opportunities for college and graduate students, either with science roles or business management roles, and really anything in between. We offer full-time 10-week summer internships, academic year internships, as well as full and part-time entry-level jobs. So we run the gambit in terms of what kind of opportunities that we have, and our partners are constantly adding new positions of varying employment types throughout the year. We are currently in our 7th year. So since 2017, we have placed, at this point, over 800 interns at nearly 800 interns at 200 companies and organizations in New York City. We are constantly adding new companies to our roster. We are reaching out and networking with companies constantly, so that number is ever increasing. Really quick before we get into, I guess, more logistic elements of our program, just our student eligibility. Likely most of you, if not all of you, will be eligible. But to be eligible to apply to our companies, you must be legally able to work in the US, either as a US citizen, a permanent resident, a DACA participant, or someone with TPS status, or have a work visa allowing work without sponsorship. Typically, that last point, international students have an F1 visa, and then they'd be able to apply either through CPT or OPT through their university. Second, you must be enrolled in a college or university in New York City, or be a New York City resident enrolled anywhere. So that means if you go to a CUNY college, for instance, but you were not a New York City resident originally, maybe you came from California, or you came from like Illinois or something, then you qualify. Or in the reverse, if you were a New York City resident, went to high school here, or grew up here, and then you went to school somewhere outside of New York, you would still qualify for this program. Recent grads, spring 2022 and later are also eligible to apply. So yeah, if you're a recent graduate, it doesn't count you out from the program. You can still find opportunities through us. That final piece of eligibility requirement, the 3.0 GPA requirement, is it is technically a requirement. However, if you do have a GPA under 3.0, you can qualify why that is, maybe indicate some like a life circumstance or some kind of extenuating circumstance that caused your GPA to be lower than 3.0. We just ask that you include some kind of reasoning as to why it was below that marker, and then we will still consider you eligible for our program. So that is not like a hard eligibility requirement. You can qualify it, and you can still apply to some of our or to most of our opportunities. We'll get right into what the life sciences means, because we define it relatively broadly in an industry context, because we're constantly finding new companies in the life sciences that meet our criteria. So we just kind of want to we'll pause really quick. And from the audience, if you could all type into the chat what life sciences means to you in an industry context, what that kind of like elicits, that'd be great. So we can get an idea of like what people think of when they hear life sciences. Because to me, I was a life science teacher or a living environment teacher in Brooklyn. Like when I think of life sciences, I think of biology or like the natural environment, but it is a very broad and very large industry. So again, y'all can type into the chat, and then we'll just read off some of your responses. Awesome. Cora says general sciences, biology, chemistry, physics is what I first think, having to do with, Suzanne says natural or living things, definitely. Jeffrey says chemistry, food, medicine. Ashna thinks of biology, chemistry, medicine, and bioengineering. And then Nelson, I like your response. Essentially everything. Uh, yeah, it's a very, very broad industry. Norwood says public health, definitely. And I would say almost all of those responses, if not all of them, do fit into our broad umbrella definition. How we define it here at LifeSci is pharmaceuticals or anything in like the biopharma industry, medical tech and medical devices, any like hardware you might find in a hospital or clinic setting. We consider like clinics, hospital spaces as life sciences. So the larger hospitals all the way to like this much smaller clinics that you might find in New York City. Digital health and health tech, any industry or any company that is connecting patients to their healthcare providers virtually or digitally. And then supportive industries, which we'll go more in depth in coming slides, but we also consider climate science, food science, climate health, ecology, all of that kind of is bundled into the life sciences as well. So it's a very broad range, and we have companies that fit into all of these different categories and beyond. On this next slide, you can see kind of a sampling of the companies that we are currently working with in New York City. We really cannot fit them all onto a single slide because, like we said, we have over 200 company partners working with our program at various times of the year. If you take a quick look at these companies, some of them may be familiar to you, maybe the larger companies like, or research institutions like the New York Stem Cell Foundation, the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation, Columbia, as well as maybe biolabs or NYU. If many of these or most of these are not familiar to you at all, that is totally understandable because a large majority of the companies we work with are actually smaller early stage startup companies that are relatively nascent, relatively unknown in New York City. And that's kind of a big purpose of our internship program is to network with these companies, provide them access to very quality candidates and applicants in New York City for interns, and for like long-time employment even. So again, many of these are very small companies that you may not be familiar with, but we are constantly networking with dozens of them throughout New York City. So again, this is a small sampling of the companies we have, but categorized into sectors within the life sciences, so you can get an idea of which kind of companies we are working with and what they are doing. A large part of the companies we work with are in the pharma, biotech, and diagnostics sector. We also work with a lot of nonprofit education and outreach companies. Digital health and health tech companies are a big up-and-coming sector in New York. Like I mentioned, we work with a number of larger research foundations in New York, like the Mark Foundation for Cancer Research, NYCIF, which is the Stem Cell Foundation in New York. We also are partnered with a number of incubators and accelerators, kind of sprinkled throughout the city. If you're not familiar with what an incubator is, it is essentially a separate organization or a separate company that has lab space or office space where it can house earlier startup companies as they kind of get off the ground. So we work closely with a lot of those incubators because a number of our companies are currently residing there or did reside there at a certain point. In fact, a lot of the companies that we have found are through those accelerators. So typically placements aren't going to be directly with the accelerator. It's usually with, we're usually hosting interns through the smaller companies that are within them. Beyond that, we have quite a few material science companies that are working on sustainable fabrics or textiles or things like that. We also have a small number of marketing and consulting firms that we are currently partnered with. Again, this is just a small subset of the companies that we reach. There are many, many more that we could not fit on this list, and quite a few opportunities even outside of these sectors. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Sharon, and Sharon will talk a little bit more about key aspects of our application and get a little bit more in depth there.
Thank you, Evan, and thank you everybody for joining us today. As Evan mentioned, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I see that some of you have started doing that already, and we are going to address them at the end of our presentation. In addition, I just want to add that we will be sending you all a copy of this slide deck following the presentation, so no need to take serious notes. You will have this at your disposal before too long, along with all the links that you might want. So our program offers positions in both science and management tracks. You don't need to apply separately or pick one in advance. Doing an application to our program will give you access to positions in both of these areas, but we've sort of divided them up here just to give you an idea of the different types of positions we offer. So on the science side of things, that may involve using biology, chemistry and biochemistry, biomedical engineering, computer science, and other tech fields, as well as getting into regulatory or other STEM fields. On the management side, and keep in mind that science majors are often in demand for these positions on the management side. Sometimes they want a finance major, but other times they might want somebody who really understands the science, say to do some business development. And these positions can encompass areas such as business, marketing, finance, accounting, IT, public policy and public affairs, as well as supply chain and operations. And there are always additional areas. These are just some of the big ones. And here, just to give you an idea of the breadth of types of positions that are available, is a sampling of positions that we've offered in the past in both the science track and the business track. So they range very widely, and there will be different ones this year. Some of these will repeat, some of them will not. Others that are not here will be in our job portal this year, but everything from bioinformatics to chemical engineering, lab techs, iOS developers, regulatory affairs interns, data analytics interns, marketing interns, social media interns, so many different types of opportunities. So just keep in mind, you'll find a plethora of different types of opportunities, many of which you may not actually have even realized are out there and are available occupations. Here is an introduction to the way the timing of our program works. As you would imagine, our application is now open, and we have two options there. One is our full summer application, which gives you access to everything we offer, including summer internships. And then the other option is our abbreviated application, which will only give you access to things that are not summer internships. So those full and part-time jobs and academic year internships. Both applications are now open, and in fact, that abbreviated application is open year-round. We relaunch it each year on September 1st. So anytime you apply, you will be able to have access to any positions we post from now through August 31st. We do encourage people to complete that full summer application because that will give you access to everything. Please keep in mind that that one will only be available through March 31st. Nonetheless, it is always better to apply sooner rather than later. We already have positions posted both for current academic year internships, for some full-time jobs, as well as for some summer internships. Each position will only remain posted until the employer finds the person they wish to hire. And at that point, that opportunity will be pulled down. So apply to our program as soon as you can. If you're interested in summer internships, apply by March 31st. We will, however, continue to post additional summer opportunities after that date, whenever various employers are ready to begin their consideration process. And even after the summer, we will continue to accept applications for positions starting at a later date. The placements are done on a rolling basis. So as I mentioned, positions are posted and pulled down as employers are at that different stage of their hiring process. So those placements are happening on a rolling basis. And we continue to make them year-round, but obviously summer internships, which I know probably a majority of you are interested in, those placements are going to happen before the summer. They're starting to happen now. They will continue throughout the winter and spring. For any applicants that are selected and hired for a position, whether summer or otherwise, you will be invited to our boot camp that will take place right before Memorial Day. So May 22nd to 23rd this year. It's a really fantastic jam-packed 2 days where we're going to offer professional development programming. We're going to offer workshops. We're going to offer career panels. There are going to be opportunities to get to know your fellow interns working at all different types of companies and in all different types of roles throughout the city. And you're also going to connect with some leaders in the field and hear from some leaders in the field. The start and end dates for the positions that we offer do vary. Obviously, for fall or winter or spring internships, they're going to be seasonal, and there may be a specific start date in mind that is stated in the job application, or it may be more vague in terms of the season, and they will figure out an exact start and end date, as well as working schedule with the intern that they end up hiring. For summer internships, most of those are full-time positions. Most of them last about 10 weeks. We have suggested dates here of May 27th to August 2nd, but some of the positions will vary in terms of company needs and intern availability. So let's look at how our placement process works. The first thing you're going to do is apply at this link, which will get you to our online application. Again, we will be sharing this presentation with you, so you don't need to copy down that link right now. Once you have submitted all the materials required by our application, you will receive an email that gives you a link to access our list of current openings. And you can come back to that list again and again to see which positions may have been added. Once you have looked at that list, and again, you'll do that frequently, hopefully, whenever you see a position that seems like a good fit for you and you're interested in applying, we will have all of your application materials on file. So all you will need to do is submit a cover letter specifically for that role. Once you do that, that will trigger our team to take a look at your application. We actually will not even look at your application until you have submitted a cover letter to apply for at least one position. Each time you do submit a cover letter, we're going to look at your full application as well as that cover letter and determine whether we feel that you are a strong fit for that position and whether you are highly qualified. If we do find you qualified for that position, we're going to approve your application for consideration by that employer, and we will notify the employer that you are a candidate that we have found to be qualified. And at that point, it is in the employer's hands, and they are going to take a look at your application and your cover letter and decide whether they wish to interview you and ultimately whether they wish to hire you. And just to note that while those doing our full summer application will be required to complete all the questions on our application, and we'll go into what is required for the application in a minute. Academic year, if you're only interested in academic year internships or full-time jobs, you can complete that abbreviated application. However, I will note that every year we do have quite a number of interns who end up getting offers to continue at their host company beyond their internship. Sometimes that is for a part-time job or an internship extension, but other times, not infrequently, they are offered full-time jobs. So even if your ideal, say you're a graduating student and you're really hoping to get a full-time job starting in the summer, we still recommend that you do that full summer application, because some of those summer internships might be opportunities that could lead to a full-time job. Many employers will use an internship sort of as a trial period and can lead to a lot of great opportunities. So we would encourage you to consider that. We do post all of our current academic year internships and full and part-time jobs at this link here. And you can look at those in advance of completing an application. In terms of summer internship positions, that list of positions is only available to those who have completed the full summer application. So you will not see the specific positions until you have submitted your application. So here is what is involved in the application during our placement process. So, and this is specifically for the full summer application. The academic year only application really only involves your resume and your, basic academic information. For the summer application, what we're going to ask of you is your resume, a personal statement, and there is a full prompt once you access the application. But basically, we're looking to learn about why you're interested in this program, what type of work you might be interested in doing for the summer and or for your career, and sort of what is your background that you're bringing to the program. We are going to ask you for your most recent academic transcript, and that can be an unofficial transcript. And we are going to ask you for contact information for 1 to 2 references. You are not submitting actual letters of recommendation, just that contact information. And once you give us your references emails, that is going to trigger an email from us to that reference, asking them to fill out a short form on your behalf. So definitely make sure that you've asked their permission before you submit their emails, because we will be sending them that email immediately, even if you haven't completed your application yet. And finally, there's an option to include a 2 to 3 minute video that can help to personalize your application. We do like to note that, unfortunately, this is a popular program and it is competitive, so we cannot guarantee placement to any applicants, but don't be intimidated, don't count yourself out. You can only get a position if you actually do apply. And so we encourage you to do so. There are positions for all different types of levels. Some are for those just getting their feet wet who haven't really had prior experience, while others might be looking for somebody with a PhD. So we have all different types of opportunities. But again, it is to your advantage to apply as early as you can. We are going to evaluate your application in a general sense based on your interest in a career in life sciences. And again, this does not mean that you need to be a bio major. It just means that your application expresses why you're interested in exploring a career in the life sciences, whether that is, doing lab research or business development or finance or accounting within this sector. We are going to look at how well you show as having personal and professional maturity and integrity. And we're going to be judging these things based on the care you have taken with your application, the effort you have put into it, the quality of the documents that you have submitted. We're going to go over how to do a strong cover letter and resume in a minute, but we're going to be how well you do those things and how carefully is going to reflect on what we score you in this area. And we're also going to look at what we hear about you from your references. Finally, we are going to look at the technical skills that you possess or have expressed a desire to learn in your specific area of specialty. And then for each specific role for which you submit a cover letter and for which we're considering you, we are going to look specifically at the requirements listed in that job description and see how well you match up and how well, strong of a case you have made that it is a position of interest that you are a good match for. And here are just a few snapshots of what our internship program looks at like beyond the specific position that you're hired for. So I mentioned that we have that 2-day boot camp, and you can see some past interns working on a team project here. We have intern talks and site visits that are scheduled over the course of the summer, generally in the evenings, so you're not missing out on your day job, your internship. If you're a summer intern, we have tours and career panels from those working in the field. And then finally, we have some events that are really more purely social. So social and networking opportunities that allow you to reconnect with your fellow interns who you may have met at boot camp, as well as leaders in the field who are hosting interns also attend some of those events. And now Bill is going to speak with you and give you some great tips on how to create a strong application for our program, as well as other materials. Again, please put your questions in the chat and we will answer them following Bill's presentation.
Thanks so much, Sharon. And thanks everybody for being here tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about what constitutes strong application materials. So Sharon's already gone over a lot of the required documents that you'll need. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what specifically we're looking for there. Throughout this section of the presentation, please continue to drop any questions in chat. I'm going to look for some participation about resumes and cover letters as well. So I look forward to hearing more about the folks we have in the room. So the first application component is a strong personal statement. I think really important advice here is to be specific and concrete in your personal statement about what you hope to take away from this internship, as well as what experiences and qualifications you're bringing to the role. A lot of times, folks will do a really good job of communicating their life story or the reason that they wanted to get into biology or medicine, and they sometimes overlook emphasizing the skill sets and the actual qualifications that they do have. So it's important to be specific and concrete about the experiences that you're bringing. And it's also okay to just define your future, your career goals in terms of next steps. We don't necessarily need to know 10, 15 years down the line what you hope to do. If you are having trouble visualizing what a long-term career looks like, that's totally understandable. It's okay to say, I'm a computer science student and I'm hoping to engage more with Python in an internship in the LifeSci program. So be specific, be concrete about what you hope to achieve, and make sure that you're actually answering the question in that personal statement. If you feel like you are a better communicator verbally than in professional writing documents, you can include an optional video to talk about what you hope to gain in the LifeSci program, what you're bringing. Oftentimes, it's easier to tell if somebody is interested or excited about specific topics if they're speaking about them personally, as opposed to professional writing documents, which can tend to sound and look the same a lot of the time. So if you feel like this would be helpful for you, we've created the optional opportunity for you to submit a video with your application as well. In the past, we've definitely had hosts come to us and say, Bill, I was really impressed with so-and-so's video. I'd love to have them for an interview. So it can be a strong component of your application if you are moved to communicate that way. When you are creating your application, make sure that you are emphasizing your interest in the life sciences. This is specifically really important if you are coming to us from a different field as well. So if you are a business major or an economics major or a computer science major, make sure that you're spending some time in your personal statement, as well as any cover letters that you might be creating when you apply to jobs, to talk about why you want to exercise those skills specifically in this sector. This can be personal connections to the field. This can be an interest in the new industry in New York City. It doesn't necessarily need to be this big, broad, moving thing. It can be specific and concrete, like your personal statement as well. It takes a lot of time to complete professional documents. A resume, if you're spending a lot of time reviewing it, can start to sort of slide off of your brain. If you're writing a lot of cover letters, they can all start to look the same. So it's really helpful to have somebody else check out your professional documents. That can be a friend, that can be an advisor on campus. We'll talk a little bit later on in our presentation about the support opportunities that we provide to students. But make sure that somebody else is taking a look at these. It's really easy to miss typos when you've been looking at something for a long time. Throughout your application with us, ensure that your resume is perfect and up to date. You can update your resume at any time just by sending us an email. Don't feel like you need to craft beyond reproach resume the first time you submit one. We're here to help you out if you're having trouble creating that resume, and you can update it to reflect any new experiences that you have. Before we talk about recommendations, and I'll make sure that we move through that quickly, I'd love to hear a little bit more in the chat, just from folks, 1 to 5, 1 being not comfortable at all, 5 being very comfortable, with how you feel about writing resumes. If you have a resume already created and ready to go, you can go ahead and give me a thumbs up emoji on Zoom. Yeah, it seems like we have a good spread. Great, so I'll spend a little bit more time on the resume section, moving through the last part of a full application, recommendations. So when we ask for recommendations, this can be somebody who's managed you previously. This can be a mentor that can speak to your personal character as well as your professional character. If you've had a professor who can speak to your academic background or your skill sets in your specific field, these can be really important. We try to be broad with the interpretation of who can give you a recommendation. The only restriction that we do have is that you shouldn't be getting a recommendation from your family or your friends. It's good practice to give your references advance notice about your application to the program. Depending on the time in the semester, 2 weeks is generally a good baseline to give somebody for a reference. If you're approaching them in a very busy time in the semester, like midterms or final season, and they're a professor, try to give a little bit more reference. Whenever you're asking somebody to give you a recommendation, it's additionally really helpful to tell them a little bit about the program and what you hope to have them emphasize about you. So if they are a coach and you've known them for 6 years, maybe they can talk about your leadership or your teamwork skills. When you provide a little bit more context for your recommendation providers like that, it can strengthen the quality of the reference that they give. So let's talk resumes. We got your ratings on resumes. Thanks for breaking the silence in the chat and sharing out about those. We're going to talk about what makes a strong resume here. One thing to note as we jump into this section, as you apply to positions on our portal, you will be using one resume for all of the applications that you apply to. It's kind of like a common app for jobs. So keep that in mind as we go through this resume advice. Very often, students do a good job of talking about their experiences in terms of what they did. A strong resume doesn't just list out what you did. It talks about how you executed those responsibilities or those projects and what the outcomes of those projects were. So when you're talking about your past experiences, whether that's a job or a class project that you worked on, make sure that you are including the how. Very often, you can answer that question with specific metrics or numbers or data points. And then in terms of the worth of a project, you know, when you executed your science project, did you do so with a really small amount of error, right? Or if you were creating an app for use somewhere, what did like the adoption of that app look like by people who could have used it, right? These are examples of what it could look like to stress the outcomes in your resume. Once you've talked about your experiences, the next step is to make sure that you are showcasing your technical skills well, especially those of you who are coming to our program from computer science or interdisciplinary programs. A lot of times resumes, a lot of times internships will screen you for specific skills or lab procedures. So make sure that you are including a skill section to talk specifically about the lab procedures you've used. If you are proficient in programming languages or design softwares, make sure that you are emphasizing those clearly. And if you speak a language, like a language, you can include fluency or proficiency in those languages. Generally make sure that if you're including a language on your resume that you would be comfortable speaking it in the workplace. We do have a handful of opportunities in our portal as well that specifically look for bilingual employees. So this can be a real asset on your resume. If you don't have as many previous work experiences to talk about, this is where we encourage you to really emphasize research experience in your field that you may have from your time on campus, or important class projects that fit into what a job description is looking for. If you've taken a lab course for a year, that counts towards minimum experience requirements that you might see in job descriptions, just as much as an internship would. So if you see a job description that says they're looking for 0 to 6 months of experience, and you have that much in your lab courses, it's important to emphasize that clearly on your resume. In addition to skill sets and experiences, something else that people are looking for is what kind of employee you are, what kind of colleague you are. So it can be really helpful to describe leadership roles you've had in clubs or volunteer experiences. You can round out your candidacy by talking about awards and honors. You don't need to always include your GPA, but if your GPA is impressive, it can be helpful to include that on your resume. The next question in the chat is going to be, what is an impressive GPA? Ask your professors and check in with folks in your fields. These sort of expectations can vary from field to field. As with all documents that you'll be submitting to job applications, make sure that you're proofreading and using consistent formatting in your resume throughout. So let's talk cover letters. Normally there's a difference between cover letter confidence and resume confidence. I'd love to know a little bit more about the people in the room with us. 1 to 5, same question. How do we feel about cover letters? With 1 being not confident, 5 being super, super confident. Okay. Like Evan, I used to work in education. I love the honesty always of seeing people rate themselves on those lower numbers in the chat. That is the way we learn. So thank you all for your participation and your honesty. Shout out to those of you with some of the higher numbers. I don't enjoy writing cover letters myself. So I'm definitely on the lower end of the spectrum. Let's talk a little bit about how we've broken down cover letters for you. I would love to just hear some sort of like answers in the chat. Why do you think your rating for a cover letter is so much lower than your rating might have been for your resume? What are the specific challenges that make cover letters feel more difficult? Yeah, go ahead, Mohammed.
You have to change the cover letter all the time.
You have to do a different cover letter all the time. Yeah, absolutely. There are ways to minimize the amount of work you're doing there. I'll talk a little bit about that. I see some other options coming in. I'm just going to precipitate out major themes. Haven't written a cover letter before, but you have done a resume. It's hard to explain that you're worthy. I hope we can break some of that idea a little bit in the next couple slides. Less experiences to talk about, less experiences writing one. It's a story and not a list of experiences. Awesome. Well, let's break down what a successful cover letter looks like. So if you follow this template that we've created, you'll have the ingredients for a successful cover letter. The way I want you to think of it is that a resume lists your experiences, whereas a cover letter bridges the gap between those experiences in your past and why you would be successful at the job that you are looking for. So when you're writing up your resume, looking at a job description, it might be really obvious to you that you have run a summer camp before for a summer, and you've been in charge of lots of people. That might seem really obvious to you in your brain about why you would be helpful in like an after-school science program, but in a cover letter, you really want to make that explicit, right? And emphasize those transferable skills. So the first aspect of a cover letter would be to express your interest in the position in the company, as well as describing where you found the opportunity. This is one sentence, just be quick about it. I am excited to apply for the opportunity that I saw on the LifeSci NYC portal, and then move into bullet point number 2, where you state your major, your academic year, and what college you're attending. You may find in our portal that we limit specific opportunities to CUNY students, just so that we are supporting as many CUNY students as possible. So this information is really helpful. You may also see job descriptions say that they're looking specifically for a junior or a senior. So emphasizing that background really clearly helps us as we screen your cover letters. You want to talk a little bit about how the company's mission is relevant to your career goals. Again, same advice as with our personal statement. These can be immediate career goals. They don't necessarily need to be your career goals 10 or 15 years down the line. I want you all to notice the first 3 bullet points in this breakdown are just one sentence long. You don't need to spend too much time talking about how wonderful the company is or what your life story is. Those can be helpful openers, but keep it short and sweet for those first 3 bullet points. And then the majority of what you should be focusing on in your cover letter is the applicable skills, work experiences, volunteer experiences that you've emphasized on your resume already. Again, even if the connection's really obvious to you about what your past experience looks like and what the job description is looking for, make sure that you are bringing that out of subtext and up into just regular text. In terms of closing, just emphasize again why you feel like you're a good fit and thank the person reading your cover letter for their time and consideration. I see a comment in the chat that I just want to touch real quick before we move on. In terms of the experiences that you have, it can be really helpful to meet with us in office hours. When you have somebody else listening to what you've gone to school for or what you've done in high school or outside of the classroom, it can be really easy for somebody else to say, that's actually a good experience that you should be highlighting on your resume. Sometimes when we're thinking of our own field, it's harder to remember like what's important because we take it for granted. So if you're one of those students thinking to yourself, I don't have a lot of experiences to talk about yet, schedule some time with us in office hours and we can help you unpack those together. Quick tip before we move on. Evan, I see the cursor moving, didn't mean to stop you from moving on, but in terms of just the last minute advice, we live in 2024 now. AI generates cover letters and resumes. You may be hearing from people to use things like ChatGPT or Google Bard, especially as you're starting out your career. It's really important to learn the skill sets to write these professional documents. Those AI programs don't necessarily always spit out good resumes or cover letters. And if you haven't written one before, you don't necessarily know how to assess if that's a good resume or a cover letter. Evan and I look at a lot of resumes and cover letters every week. We can really often tell when something has come out of an AI prompt. So please make sure that if you are using those as tools to support your application, that you are editing them and that you are not turning that in as your final product. We have had many people on this general info session today. I think we're somewhere near 90 students that joined throughout the meeting today. So if you're one of those students who joined earlier and had to leave, or If you've had some connection issues, you can join our next info session in February. We have a career panel coming up in February 20th as well. That is, I think, past alumni who will be speaking about opportunities you can have in specific fields. You can follow us on social media for updates on future events. And then the next slide will talk a little bit about some of those resources that we have available for you. So you can find more information at our LifeSci NYC Internship bit.ly. You can sign up for office hours at that specific link. In office hours, we cover a lot of different things. If you've never gone through a job board before, we can talk to you about the ways that you can go through job titles and decide if something is a good fit for you. If you're looking for resume or cover letter support, we'll provide workshops and edits for those documents. And if you are invited ever to interview with one of our host partners, we offer mock interviews as well. We have a team, Evan and myself, and then Sally, who Evan mentioned earlier in the presentation. We are the team that executes those mock interviews. We all have a lot of experience in screening and interviewing people for other jobs before. So please take advantage of those opportunities that we have available for you. You can join our meetup. We have a general inquiry email where you can answer any questions that we might not have gotten to today. And then we have professional resources available for you. Some of them we covered in this call that can kind of direct you all in some more independent work as well. I know we have a lot of folks on the call. I see our time, so I'm going to go ahead and I think turn it over to Q&A at this point.
Great. Well, I think we have a lot of questions in the chat. So let's go back to the beginning where all those questions are. Feel free to add additional questions. Let's see. The first question I see actually is, are undocumented students living and studying in New York City eligible to apply? And it kind of depends. If you are have DACA status or TPS, you are certainly eligible to apply. Basically, you need to be able to be paid legally as a W-2 employee in order to apply. If you have specific questions about your situation, please feel free to reach out to us directly after this presentation at internships@upperweststrategies.com, and we can see if we can answer your situation specifically. Another question I saw, how does computer engineering fit into this program? Do you want to take that one, Evan?
Yeah, so computer engineering, I would probably like bundle that in with software engineering or like maybe even data science and computer science positions. We certainly have a large deal of those positions available. I'm sure our companies would be happy to look through computer engineering applications and that you would fit into any of those categories. So we certainly have a number of opportunities that would be available for you.
I see also a question that says, is this like an internship or a program? If so, how long is the program? Thanks. Bill, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're applying for a summer internship with us, most often those summer internships are full-time, 40 hours a week for 10 weeks, which means 400 hours of internship. If you're applying for an internship in the academic year with us, really often you'll still get those 400 hours. It'll just be stretched out over a longer time period. The actual specifics of how long you'll be working for companies or what time and when will come down to what the company is looking for in their job description and what you can offer. But as a rule, summer internships tend to be full-time, 10 weeks.
Sorry, my questions moved here. I've got to find the next question again. Somebody asked if it's a paid internship. Yes, all of our positions are paid at least minimum wage, which in New York State is now $16 an hour. And most of them are paid $18 an hour or more. Next question, how long do these internships go for? I think we just talked about that. Can we choose for how long we can be there to work? For that question, some positions are very prescriptive in terms of saying, like, we are requiring somebody full-time between this date and this date. Others might say, please indicate in your cover letter when you will be available. Generally, for summer internships, they're more often looking for a full-time commitment, whereas for academic year internships, there may be some flexibility. Next question says, I don't have a cover letter currently because I'm working. Or have any other work right now, can I still apply or should I wait to get work experience for my cover letter and apply next cycle? Evan, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so you can certainly apply like this cycle. There's no harm in applying multiple times. If anything, your application just gets progressively better as you go through our program. We actually recently found that a good deal of our current placements have applied multiple times to our program. So it seems that your odds of getting an internship increase the more that you apply and the more cycles that you actually go through. So I highly recommend that you go through this cycle and then again, try your luck. And your application can only improve.
Yeah, and you have nothing to lose. You can't get hired if you don't apply. And somebody in a related question asked what percentage of students who apply get into an internship. And while that does vary, one thing to keep in mind is doing your application is the first piece of the process in applying for our program. And it's a lower percentage that get placed who just have done an application. Once you submit even one cover letter, your chance of being placed is about 3 times as high. So those who have submitted cover letters are the ones who get placed. So the more cover letters you submit, the better chance you have of being placed. We can't tell you exactly what percentage because it varies from year to year. It is competitive, but again, you can't be placed if you don't apply. And I see someone ask, do I need to make a separate reference page for application submission? I'm not sure what that question means. If Raymond, if you want to put in another question that's more specific. Norwood asked, I was wondering where I can find this presentation and recording. And again, we're going to email this to everybody following today's presentation. So you'll have a copy of the slide deck, and then there's a link and to a similar presentation that we've done if you want to watch the video again. Are we able to edit our personal statement and resume after we submit the application? Bill, do you want to address that?
Yeah, in terms of personal statements, I'm not sure that we've had somebody ask to ever edit the personal statement before, but yeah, your resume can always be updated if you just email us a new copy of the resume. That can be a great way to stay on top of any classes that you've taken in this semester since you submitted, or any new internship experiences. You can always email to our general inquiry email and we will update your resume for you.
Evan, can you answer whether program mentors are acceptable as recommenders?
I would say yes. Any person who knows you in a, let's say, an academic context, in a work context, or like some kind of context that isn't your friend, your family member, it would be acceptable. So I think if they know you, in a more professional manner, then that's definitely an acceptable recommendation.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Someone asked how to schedule office hours. There is a link at the end of this presentation, which we will email to you. It's on the final page. And if you click there, it brings you to a Calendly where you can select a time that works for you to schedule an office hours appointment. Somebody asked, will you share the slides? Yes, we're sharing the slides. If we send a cover letter and you guys screen our applications and think we are qualified, are we notified of that? Or do we only get a notification if the employer wants to meet with us? Bill?
Yeah, so I'm going to tie in another question too that I think was right above this. Someone says there's no area to submit a cover letter. So the way it works is once you complete your application with us, you get access to your job portal, to our job portal. You'll see all the jobs that you can apply to there. You'll write up a cover letter and submit that. And then if we think you're qualified, getting to Ashna's question, if we think you're qualified, we will toggle your application in our portal and send you on to our host partners. You do get a notification that we have sent you on. However, once we send you on, all hiring, all interviewing belongs to our partners after that. It's not any guarantee that they will invite you to interview or that they will offer you a job. But it's still, I think, really helpful for students to get that notification that they've been sent on, just as you all sharpen your application materials.
The next question says, I am a law student at John Jay College in New York City. I'm scared that I'm not knowledgeable enough about life sciences. Are there opportunities for law students? We very occasionally have opportunities that are specifically for law students. However, there may be other positions, maybe say public policy related, that would be very appreciative of having somebody who has that knowledge that a law student would have. And we encourage you all not to sort of give into imposter syndrome. I think we all experience that, where we all think, oh, everybody else is so qualified and I'm not really qualified for this. I better not even try. But you're really only hurting yourself by that. We know it's hard sometimes to be confident, given that job hunting and internship hunting is a tough thing and it always involves more rejection than acceptance. But the only way that you're going to get a position is by applying. So, tamp down those doubts. Sign up for office hours if you need a boost and apply. Like, I can't say strongly enough that you need to apply in order to get a position. The next question is, what type of job would you recommend for someone with little experience in computer science, but still has interest and wants to learn more? I can't remember who answered the last question. Evan.
Yeah. So we have a number of computer science positions. Some, it really depends on what the company is looking for, and you can check out the job description to see which are a little bit more entry level, which as opposed to which ones are looking for very specific, more advanced experience. So I'd recommend just going through our job portal once you gain access to that, seeing which ones are maybe a little bit more a little less stringent in the requirements. So maybe just like Python, SQL, SQL, like some basic coding programs required, and then try applying to those. There are some like CS positions or data science positions that require like machine learning experience that are a little bit more difficult, and you won't be considered if you do not have that kind of experience. So I'd say just check out our portal and then see what kind of meets your qualifications.
Next question, Bill, is it too late to get an internship for the spring 2024 semester?
Yeah, so in terms of like the timeline that you'll have for applying and hearing back, that varies just because we operate with tiny startups and big companies. All hiring timelines can vary greatly. I will say we are always hiring. We've placed people today. We are following up to see if we've been able to place people tomorrow. If you are on top of your application materials, if you have a strong profile, you could absolutely apply somewhere and start immediately.
Okay, next question. Where do we see job positions to submit cover letters? So once you have submitted your application, you will receive an email that gives you a link to our job portal, which you can then visit as often as you like. We encourage you, when you are job hunting, to check your email frequently and also to check your spam folder probably daily, because you might receive emails from unfamiliar sources and they could be routed into your spam, and you don't want to miss an important email about a job opportunity. If you don't find that email from us once you have submitted your application, please do email us at internships@upperweststrategies.com, and we can check the status of your application and let you know if there's any unfinished pieces, or there's a reason why you haven't gotten that email, or we can give you a copy of it. Somebody asked, would it be helpful to tailor our resume for each application? Bill, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so said earlier in the presentation, you'll only create one resume for your application. So take a look at what kind of positions you want to have and make sure that you're like generally hitting those. Cover letters will be where you tailor like more of your specific approach to each job. So just one resume for all the jobs you apply for in our portal.
Evan, Anthony asks, I'm almost finished with the first part of the application. On the application page, will there be separate sections of personal statements and references?
Yeah, so once you complete your initial application, you're going to select either abbreviated or full summer, meaning like non-summer versus summer applications. If you just select abbreviated, there's not a separate section. That's just it. But if you select full summer or full application for summer, you'll be prompted to complete the separate section, which has the personal statement, transcript, and references. And then you'll gain access to our summer portal.
And I see the next questions are there opportunities for medical receptionists and any medical internships? We occasionally do have positions like that. It's not what we offer most frequently. More of our positions are at companies and nonprofit organizations than they are at healthcare practices. But we do post a number of positions at academic medical centers where there are research opportunities. There's another question. Are there any current opportunities related to data analytics? I've filled the application on the portal, but haven't heard back. Bill, do you want to take that?
Yeah, in terms of data analytics, I know we have some data opportunities available. It depends a little bit on what you want to do with data analytics. Oftentimes we see positions in those entail anything from market research and business analytics to like specific just straight focused data internships. So consider, where you want to use that skill if you're interested in things like if you have the background for bioinformatics or things like that. We definitely do get opportunities like that. If you have questions about how to navigate that portal, we don't necessarily always tell you what jobs are on there. We send a weekly email, but if you have questions about navigating that portal, definitely schedule office hours with us and we'd be happy to help you out somewhat.
Yeah, and I see now that question are actually specified for summer 2024. So summer positions are just beginning to be posted right now. And even if you don't see a specific type of role yet, those are going to start snowballing as we get into winter and spring, and there are going to be a lot more summer opportunities posted. So just keep checking that job portal and read our weekly emails that we send out, usually on Fridays, about any new positions that have been posted. And I'm sure you'll find what you're looking for at some point. That is all the questions I see for now. I don't know if either Bill or Evan have received any additional direct questions, but if you have any other questions that you want answered today, please ask them now. Otherwise, you can email us at internships@upperweststrategies.com, and we're always happy to answer your questions. And we're just really happy to have had so many of you here today, and we really look forward to receiving your applications and hopefully placing you in an internship.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
good day.
you.
Raymond, real quick before you go, once you submit your application, if you're doing a full application, you'll get a follow-up email where you will provide the email contact for your reference provider.
Yeah, you don't need to put it on your resume.
You'll get access to a recording and notes in a follow-up email probably tomorrow, Gabby. Okay, I think that looks like everyone. So
Yep.